Hi everybody, it's Jack Wallen again, and this is a bonus video. Even better, this video was inspired by the last two videos I did, so I guess you could call this recursive inspiration. Yay, bonus round. Okay, look, I'm going to confess something here. Sometimes I fail at these videos. And failure is relative, of course. And that's important. That's really important to understand, that failure is relative. What is a failure to me might not be a failure to you. What is a failure to you might not be a failure to someone else. So let's keep that in mind, okay? When I explain to you what happened. All right, so when I did the video about breaking norms, two things happened. And you may or may not have noticed them. Well, you wouldn't have noticed one of them. Prior to me filming that video, somehow my camera got bumped. And when it got bumped, that side of the wall over there, you could see beyond it. So what I had to do is I had to zoom in a little bit so I looked a bit closer than you probably were comfortable with. Yay. The second thing that happened with that video was my shoulder, my shirt, this shoulder section of my shirt, this side or this side, I can't remember which. It was wrinkled. It looked like I had slept on it. And I felt really bad, and I seriously thought about refilming it just because of those two reasons. But then I thought, well, it's all about the content, right? It's what I said, not how I looked. Because if I judged these videos on how I looked, I probably wouldn't publish any of them. I mean, look at this. I'm a big old goof. Okay, the second video, which was a Linux 101 video, I thought for sure, absolutely certain that I had the color right on it. And then I published it. And then I looked at it later. I was like, what happened? The color looks terrible. It's washed out. There's no depth. There's nothing. It's terrible. You see, I filmed these in log, which is a special color science. So when I take the card out of the camera and I look at it on my computer, it looks all gray and flat. And I have to manually adjust the color. And the reason why I do that is because I have more control over the color and other aspects of it than if I just recorded it in Rec 709. I know, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I seriously thought about recoloring it and republishing it, but then there were already a bunch of views and I didn't want to get rid of that. There weren't any comments on it yet. Maybe there were comments, I can't remember, but anyway. So here's the thing. When that kind of something happens to me, it bugs me. I looked at that, I was getting ready to sit down last night and start working on Aftermath. I'm just reading it before I send it to beta readers. And I looked at the video again and I thought, oh, this looks terrible. This looks awful. And I couldn't let go. You know, and it's one of those things, and this happens to me. It's like I started breaking out into sweat and I was like, oh no, another failure. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Ultimately, I just said, you know what? Again, it's what I said, not how I looked. So I left it. And as I was thinking about the whole shebang this morning, I thought, yeah, I need to talk about this. And my cat Bijan upstairs, he really wants to talk about it. If you can hear him, I don't know, but he's a singer, which is odd because for most of his life, he was silent. Now he's doing that. And it breaks my heart when he does that because I just want to grab him and hold him. And anyway, that's not the point. Look, here's the thing. This is what came out of those failures. And this is why I want to talk about this. This is especially because of the whole colorization of the second video. I started thinking there has to be an easier way to do this. I'm filming these videos with the same lighting, the same background, the same distance from the camera. Everything is the same. And yet every time I do them, I have to redo the color every time. And it's not precise. I would rather these videos all look the same because, you know, that's a good thing. So I started looking into it. And I discovered, aha, there's a way to do it. In DaVinci Resolve, essentially, you probably don't care about this, but essentially, I take a still, I color everything, and then I take a still from the timeline, and it gets saved in a special folder. And then when I import another clip like this one, I can right-click that still and apply all of the color from that still to the new clip. So not only is it easier and faster, it's more similar. It's the same. I can reproduce the same color every time. And that's a good thing. And this is why I needed to come here today and say this. There's always something to learn in your failures. And I know you're probably like me. You hate to fail. You hate when something doesn't go right. I almost said wrong, but you don't hate it when something goes, wait a minute, you do hate it when something goes wrong. You don't hate it when something goes right. I swear to goodness, my brain is functioning today. Maybe it's because I just had to say goodbye to my wife because she's flying somewhere to see her parents, and I'm always kind of disjointed when she leaves. That's not the point. We all run into obstacles. We all fail at some point. We all struggle. There's always going to be something that doesn't go right. And when it does, there are two ways you can handle it. Number one, you can let it take you down. And I used to be that way. A long time ago, I used to be like, oh, another failure, I'm done, I'm doomed, imposter syndrome, take me away. But now, every time I come up against a failure, every time I see something that I've done wrong, I step back and I look at it and I say, what can I learn from this? Because I know that if I approach it that way, I'm going to come out on the other side better for having done it. Just like this instance right here. I'm going to be able to be more, I'm trying to think of the word and I don't know why the word is not coming to me. Usually words do not fail me, but I'm going to have an easier road to get these videos done and be more consistent with them. And that's important to me. For these videos, I want to have consistency because I don't want you to sit down to watch one of these videos and think, well, what's it going to look like today? I would rather you be saying, oh, what's he going to say today? Hopefully thinking that I'm going to say something that will help you because that's what the point of this is, right? Yay, help. We all love to be helped. So, yeah, failure doesn't have to equate, this is going to be confusing and crazy, I know that. Failure doesn't have to equate to failure. Failure can equate to eventual success because you're going to learn something. And I don't know about you, but education is really, really important to me. I love learning. I absolutely love learning. When I come into something that I don't know about, I want to know about it. I want to learn. That was one of the things when I started getting into film. When my best friend and I started filming those scenes from Me and My Muse, 2 or 3 years ago, when neither one of us knew what we were doing. We were clueless. But we were excited and we thought, we're going to figure this out. We're going to learn how to do this. And every time we did it, we came up against an obstacle. We failed at something. And when we stepped back and looked at it, we thought, okay, what did we do wrong? How can we fix it? And what can we do to make sure that we don't repeat that thing that we did wrong? And every time we came back, we had improved. We had figured out that problem, of course, only to find out there's going to be more problems. Because if you've ever done any video, any film, it's hard. It's complicated. It is a mess of complication. But that's great. That's great. Because, you know, There is joy to be had in overcoming a failure. I know it's crazy, isn't it? The human condition is so absurd, but it's also at the same time beautiful. Because think about it. You can literally approach a failure and think, "Whee! I failed at something. That means I'm going to learn something." I don't mean, I know it's really not like that. I know you're not going to all of a sudden be cheering because you failed at something. But you don't have to worry that that failure is going to take you down. And it doesn't matter if it's at work, well, okay, there are certain instances where failure could be catastrophic, right? I mean, we saw, just recently, we saw that. If you've been watching the news, I'm not going to bring it up because it's tragic and I don't want this to become something that it doesn't need to be. But yeah, as long as the failure isn't catastrophic, even in the catastrophic failures, there's something to learn. It's just that we hope that the failures don't lead to catastrophe. I'm confusing myself, so don't worry. You're not alone. But truly, and I've been there, I know what it's like to fear failure. For a very long time in my life, I feared failure. And the grip that that had on my heart prevented me from moving forward in anything. There was one point in my career as a writer where I felt so hopeless and I felt that it was so pointless of me to even continue on that I almost gave up as a writer. And I can't imagine what my life would have turned out to be had I followed through with that instinct and gave up. But fortunately, I didn't. I stepped back and I said, how can I fix this? What can I learn from this process? What am I doing wrong? And how can I make it right? And now, granted, writing was absolutely critical for me. I had to be able to do it. I had to, because I had to have that artistic outlet. I had to be able to create. And when all of a sudden I wasn't on stage acting, if I didn't have some sort of creative outlet, this thing in here, right here, between these two temples, it would have been like some big old giant grabbed my brain and squeezed all of the juice out of it until it was bone dry and put it back in and said, okay, function now. So I didn't give up. I didn't let that failure wreck me. I have, in my life, had those kinds of failures where I did let them wreck me, where I did let them take me down. And it's been a very, very long time since that's happened. And it probably, I'm guessing that, if I have anything to do with it, it will never happen again. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to fail. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. I guarantee you that. But at the same time, I'm going to rise above that failure, learn something from it, and move forward. So the lesson here is that, look, I say look too many times. I was watching a video the other day, and I think I said it 4 or 5 times. I'm going to try to not say that anymore because it bugs me. I don't even remember what I was going to say. Yes, I know what I was going to say. Adjacent to failure, or maybe not adjacent, maybe, is the quest for perfection. Look, I did it again. Okay. We all know, or we all assume, we all are told that perfection, that perfect, doesn't exist. I don't buy that. I think that there are things in life and nature that are perfect. Like a snowflake, a literal snowflake, not a person, a snowflake, a crystal, a crystalline structure, a perfect circle, not the band, a perfect circle, which can be drawn. There are things that are perfect. And I know, I've been told myself, and I have given this advice before, and I don't necessarily buy it, that the quest for perfection is futile. We know we're not, I know that I'm not going to write the perfect book, right? I'm not. Especially like my first drafts. They're not perfect. There are mistakes, which is why I have an editor and beta readers. And I used to be, and this is how obsessed I was. It used to be my goal was that my first drafts were to be perfect. And if they weren't perfect, they were a failure. So if I finished a draft and sent it to a beta reader or an editor or whatever, and they got back to me and said, okay, there are some problems here, I'd break out in a cold sweat, and I would get angry at myself, and I would beat myself up over it. And I eventually, I would go, okay, well, let's fix the problems and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, along the way, I started realizing that that was futile. And the best thing to do was to submit my first drafts and then learn from the feedback. And I cannot even begin to tell you how many lessons I have learned over the years from feedback from beta readers and editors. And every time that happens, there's a little bit of rejoicing that happens inside of my head because, yay, I learned something. My mistake ended in me learning something. And that is a beautiful thing. So, herein lieth the lesson. The next time you fail, don't fret. Don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow. Because isn't that the goal? To constantly be moving forward, constantly be learning, constantly improving what you do, constantly improving your humanity. Isn't that a great thing? Isn't that a great way to look at failure? That every time it happens, you can go, all right, okay, this happened. I'm going to learn something from it. And when I get on the other side, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better. Whatever it is that I did is going to be better. I mean, come on. That's a great thing, right? So instead of fearing failure, accept it. Embrace it. Embrace your failure. Because when you do, when you pull that failure in and give it a big old hug, you know, you can feel it. You can feel that you're improving, you're learning. And you're going to be better on the other side. And that, my friends, my wonderful, wonderful, lovely friends, is what I have to say about failure. Don't let it take you down. Learn from it, and you'll be better. Okay? Now, I'm going to finish this video. I'm going to take it upstairs to my editing machine, and I'm going to get it right this time. And if I don't, guess what? I'm going to learn from it. Anyway, thank you so very much for giving me a little extra bonus time this weekend, or whenever it is you watch this, because I greatly appreciate it. And I hope that maybe you've learned something from this, or were entertained, I don't know, whatever. And most importantly, I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.